part two of our interview with Joe Lewis, and in part one we got up to pretty much half time in the semi-final when you come off, and you had your leg in a in a splint of some description, and you had to watch the second leg and obviously the final. What was the rehab like? Because I'd imagine a serious injury like that, mentally as well as physically, it could be quite draining.
Yeah, it was very difficult, and I don't feel like it took me a long time to get my leg completely right, to be honest. But I would say over a year until I really had a lot of confidence in the power of that right leg. So yeah, it was difficult. Obviously, I don't know if we covered it in the first bit, if the quality was good enough, but watching that playoff final was very difficult. You know, to turn up to Old Trafford and not be part of, obviously be with the squad and that sort of thing, but not be part of the playing, the match day team was very, very tough. I was obviously delighted we got promoted and celebrated with the boys, and obviously I'd been part of that team that season, so I still felt part of the group. But to miss out on a playoff final, the only one I would have got to play, probably in my career. So that was very, very difficult, and obviously the long road back to recovery from there was probably 5 or 6 months before I was back playing. So very tough mentally, but also I had a good group of lads I was really good friends with in the dressing room to help me through that tough period. And obviously I had a responsibility as a sort of key part of the dressing room to sort of be positive around the place. So you can do yourself good at home, really. If obviously you get your help from the physios and your teammates in terms of it, but you have to try and put that brave face on and be a good teammate. And Paul Jones was playing at the time, and I had to be there for him, like Tiles was for me when I came in and was playing ahead of him. So that was it was tough, but it's you can look back on it now and be glad of the character building and how it's shaped you as a player.
It was weird because I remember that obviously the playoff final, and you came off the bus and you'd had your suit on and everything. You was all stressed up with nowhere to go, really, wasn't it? And it was really tough to sort of try and get into a mindset whereby you could try and cheer your teammates on, because, as you say, from a purely player perspective, you wanted to be a championship player, so you wanted them to win.
Oh yeah, well yeah, just I want my teammates to win. You do, and you're bitterly disappointed that you can't win again. And you're part of that team that's stepping out there, and you don't feel that buzz quite as much as of the win. But I mean, you couldn't fail to feel a buzz from that game at Old Trafford. 3-0 against the Huddersfield team. They had more fans there, and it felt like you felt like the underdogs going into the game with the crowd, and I think Huddersfield's budget was probably a lot bigger than ours, and they were probably favourites going in. They packed out their half of the stadium. So yeah, it was. We felt like I think we must have felt like underdogs going into it. Probably didn't feel like underdogs. Probably didn't, from the outside you would be underdogs, but I don't think that team we had was full of confidence. Can't remember it was that long ago now, but we won't have felt like we were underdogs going into that. We would have felt like we were going to go in the game. Didn't possibly think we'd win it 3-0, but I think we would have been confident to win that game.
You must have been gutted as well, in the sense that you had your big knee brace on, and there was a big night out to be had, weren't there? I mean, you probably played on that a little bit to get a few more drinks, but I'd imagine it was. I bet you felt it the next morning.
Probably didn't help the swelling on the knee that night, but we had I think we were at the Worsley Marriott that night, which is a nice hotel, and there was a do on after for the friends and family. So I mean, we got well pissed really to just stay at the hotel, enjoy. There's a karaoke at one stage, I remember, then Mackenzie up on the karaoke, I think. All the staff, all the players, all their families. They're the moments you're in football for, really. Them sort of celebrations. Yeah, you get that buzz on the pitch, but the that sort of celebration in the evening where you can just put your feet up, enjoy it with your friends and family. They're the moments that when you finish your career or when you're further down your career, like I am, you look back and then moments and they're real highlights.
Obviously, as you say, the next season you missed a large chunk because of the injury and because the team were obviously, the results were up and down. But obviously there were some really good games and some good memories. And I imagine watching on from the sidelines was hard to be a part of that.
Yeah, it was. It was tough again. It was really tough, and it was a battle to get back in the team. I think Jonah was doing well. I think he was pretty unfortunate and for me to go in. But I was delighted to be back in the team, to get back in the team, and it was a tough season for us, but it was a relief. It was such a relief to get back playing and get back training, because it was my first real long-term injury. The only one I've had in my career, really. I broke my shin. Well, sort of a fracture of my shin last season, but it was a short time, relatively short time in terms of a leg break. It was I think it was just around about 3 months, just short of, and it was nowhere near the extent of a broken kneecap completely. You're bracing and you get the sort of muscle wastage and the recovery from that is a lot more. So it was the worst injury I've had in my career, and to get back from that was brilliant. Was a relief, but again, I didn't really feel as strong straight away, and I felt like I was sort of carrying a bit of an injury still, even being out for that long.
When you actually departed the football club, when it got to that point of moving on, were you, because players can see things coming, sometimes they can predict what's going to happen, sometimes it comes as a complete shock. For you, was it a case of, you obviously had a lot of success, you'd had a big injury, was it a challenge to go somewhere else at that point?
It was an unbelievable emotional roller coaster, the 4.5 years I'd been at the club, and it was the right time to move on. Dara had offered me a good contract, but I think he understood as well that it was time for me to move on. Now, the choice of move, looking with hindsight, did it progress my career? No, it didn't. Going to Cardiff, and I went there hoping to, with the promise of if I can train well and do well in pre-season, then the shirt could be mine. As soon as I got there and realised the situation, that wasn't really the case. Dave Marshall was brilliant while I was there and did really well, but career move, it wasn't great. It probably stunted my career a little bit. I was there for 2 seasons at Cardiff. I was contracted to Cardiff for 4 years in total, but I had 2 seasons there, sat on the bench playing cup games, of which the manager at the time wasn't interested in the cup. We got promoted the first season, which was great, to the Premier League, and then surviving the Premier League was obviously the aim. So cup competitions weren't of interest to the manager at the time. So it was a reserve team playing in the cup. If we got knocked out, I think probably may not have said it, or he probably wouldn't admit it, but was maybe a little bit relieved that the fixture congestion wasn't bothering the first team. So I didn't. Looking back with hindsight, I had great times at Cardiff as well, and I really enjoyed my time there. Loved the place, loved the club and the city. But as a career move, it didn't work for me, and I ended up spending a bit of time on loan the latter 2 years. So it it wasn't a great career move, but obviously it's led me to where I am now, which I'm grateful for. So you can't have too many regrets. But going back to that, I'm not sure what I would have done. Would have held fire a little bit and waited to see what had happened. I mean, staying at Peterborough was never completely not an option, but I did feel like the emotional roller coaster and the ups and downs I had at the club, I felt like it was probably a good time to move on.
Yeah. Obviously, you played with some great players during your time at Posh, and I've asked this of many people, and it's very hard sometimes when you play with so many good players and so many close friends as well to select a top 2 or a top 3. I mean, there are so many players that got a lot of plaudits. Is there anybody that you play with that you probably went under the radar a little bit?
He went under the radar.
Obviously, Jim, but that's because he didn't play. But
Jimmy, yeah. Obviously, Boydie, what he achieved at the club, the clear ability and the work rate. I don't think anyone, not even myself at the time, until he went and played in the Premier League, and you realise the stats that he was racking up in terms of his sprinting and running and what the distances he was covering. I don't think we really. I'm sure. I mean, the manager loves Boydie. Yeah. Darren does, and did as well. And I certainly didn't realise at the time the work he'd put in. And I think obviously when Boydie had his poorer games, he looked lethargic. He looked a little bit slow, but that's just the way he moves. More I've learned about football now. That's the way he moves, and that's why he's such a good player. But it probably looked worse than it was when he was having his poorer games, and we all know what he can do, what he could do, and what he still can do. So Boydie's one of probably the standout footballer that I played with during my time. Ryan Bennett obviously has gone on to have a good career. Playing a team which was always an attacking team. Peterborough will always be known for that, I'm sure. Especially, I think that's partly what Darren what keeping them two together is the team philosophies that they both want for the football team. For a centre half to do so well, you can always see his class that he had. And another one who never really shook off his injuries. I always loved seeing him, even just in training. What a good left foot he had, and his athleticism. But his injuries just absolutely hampered his career, unfortunately. So there's a few. I'm just trying to think now who else we had. Obviously, Aaron and Craig. If I was ever to become a manager, which I don't think I will, I would look for an Aaron and a Craig to be my strikers. Two people who just make the absolute best of what they've got. They have good ability, but relentless work rate, sprint for everything, greedy, and I mean that in a good way, and just so hungry for goals. Never known two strikers. They're real competition. They're good mates now. I know they are, and they were at the time. But they would have kicked each other out of the way or poke one over the line to get one over the other one. And that was unbelievable for the team, for that competition up front. They were just real goal scorers, and in a team which had Boydie just playing off them was. The formula was fantastic for the club. So, I'm just trying to think if there's any that I've missed, any that maybe. Do you know what? Chris Westwood, I would say as well. Again, just for what he brought to the team. For me, my favourite centre halves are ones that listen to what I'm saying, help me out as well. And have that presence. And Westy had that presence, and he was getting towards the back end of his career, but he had that spring. He didn't quite have the pace that probably he once had, but he read the game unbelievably well, talked to everyone, just dictated the back line. So Westy's one of the ones that helped me massively, and I knew he always had your back. I always remember. Well, I don't remember it that well, but the Wrexham game, I can't remember the guy's name, the centre half for him, who elbowed me in the face basically and knocked me out. And I always remember looking back at the video, and Westy's just straight in there. You just know he's got your back. He was an unbelievable teammate. So it was, I would say them ones I've mentioned, they're the ones that stand out in my head as being the standout ones. And no real surprises there, I don't think.
In terms of the banter, I mean, you were pretty much king when it came to making sure everybody was on their toes. Was that a role that you sort of fell into, or was that I know it's your character, but I mean, to go to a club and then to sort of be the king at that was something you took on and managed?
I just that's something I enjoy. I'm probably the most immature guy in the Aberdeen dressing room, and I'm one of the more senior ones. And I love just the banter within the dressing room. That's when I finish football, when I retire, I'll miss the feeling of having won a game, that feeling of having made a great save or then, but more than anything, I'll miss the changing room. The just walking every morning, having a laugh, having your breakfast, having a laugh with the boys. That's what it's all about. And that team we had it all. And although, I used to just get involved with all the banter and all the laughs, and used to be well involved with it. There was Itzy and Westy and the senior lads. They were different. They were just old school, ruthless, and I probably caught the back end of that, and I've got hopefully a bit, not too much ruthlessness, and I try not to. You have to be a bit careful, especially with young lads coming through these days. It is a bit different. People take things a bit more personally, I think. You can't say things, whether it's a joke or not, that maybe you once would say. And it's right, and probably if you were to record some of the things that we said and did, and show them to people now, it wouldn't go down very well. But at the time, it's how things change, isn't it? It's people are, the young lads coming through are different, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They are different. I get on with all the young lads at Aberdeen, and the ones that come. We've got a good group of young lads come through, and they just group of them next to me in the change room. Actually, we have a great laugh and really enjoy their company. But it is different now, and that's one of the things. As you become older as a player, you have to adapt to that. They're more professional than probably we were when we were younger. They don't go out as much, I don't think. Like I say, the role models now are Ronaldo, Messi, that type of player where they don't go out drinking. The role models are teetotal, and that's how that's a different role models to what we had when we were a bit younger, and the generation before me, really, when you had the Arsenal boys at their Tuesday clubs and that sort of thing, and the George Best, obviously before them, but that was always the role models. And I think people coming through, there was a drinking culture that has gone out the game completely. I think now lads still go out at the right times now and have a drink and celebrate stuff, but if you've lost a game or you don't go out now, you just you keep yourself to yourself, and you respect the situation, and it is a completely different culture in football now. There's not that drinking culture, which is clearly a good thing and will benefit the standard, definitely.
Of course, what you could do is just take on the press officer. I mean, that's the thing. If you don't want to take on the players, just tie up the press officer. I mean, that was.
Well, you know what? The time you got tied to that bench, as funny as it was, and as I'd love to have taken credit for that was I was late to the party there. I did enjoy it definitely, but I didn't.
Oh yeah, you definitely
was,
enjoyed it. You 100%.
yeah. The boot polish and the Vaseline was not my idea.
No,
I
no.
think at one stage you were in a U shape, but not the way your body does, bending backwards. Yeah, I don't know how you escaped that unscathed. I don't know.
I think what happened was, I think I said something to Kieran Charnock, I think, about his performance at the weekend. And this is exactly what you were talking about. What you can say and what you can't say. You really need to pick who you're speaking to. And I said something, and I remember thinking, as soon as I said it, that's probably a bit too far. But you got to. I remember going back to the office, and then it was the biggest coordinated attack I think I've ever seen. If the team had performed in that formation at the previous weekend, we'd have won the game, because I had no chance, absolutely zero chance. And
it was Charlie's a big boy as well, wasn't he? He was a strong boy. So once he grips hold of you, you're better off just giving up and just trying to.
I realised
let him have his way.
Yeah, I realised very early on that after fighting it for a good 10, 15 seconds of wriggling, that I was making it worse for myself, and I just had to accept it was happening and just hope it didn't go as far as what I feared it would.
What it did.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't know. I hope that hasn't happened to you since, but I don't think it would. It's just the way that things go. Again, that goes. You get a lot of the things that happened. And that was probably the last of that type of banter. And it does, every now and then it did probably go a bit too far. When I was in the youth team at Norwich, if I was a boot boy and the pros' boots weren't clean, no, if they were clean, but they weren't fully dry, I'd put too much water on and everything. It was boot room, lights out. You got beaten up. Basically, you got beaten up. You would come out bleeding. You have nosebleed, or you have a cut on you somewhere, and it was just what happened. And it was almost like you come out of there, and there was no serious damage done, and you come out, and it was just what happened, and it's clearly a good thing that it doesn't happen anymore, and it couldn't happen anymore. But it does make you it does build you as a person, and it was clearly different. But if I've got a lad who does my boots at Aberdeen, and he just doesn't do them. Can't be bothered. Doesn't do them, and I ask him why he hasn't done them, and he'll say, "Oh, didn't have time," and walk off. And it's just like, I go, admire your honesty. Sorry to trouble you. Carry on with your day. Yeah, and that's it.
Good luck. You'll be getting absolutely nothing. Just finally, obviously, as someone that played for Darren in obviously the earlier spells as manager, what was he like in terms of a team talk? What was he like in terms of preparation for a game? Because obviously I've worked with him 3 times. I'm currently working with him now, and everybody I talk to always says the same sort of thing, that he was very meticulous with his planning, and also he struck a very wonderful balance of being able to be someone you could talk to, but also someone that you needed to respect. Is that how you saw him?
I got, I had and will always have a huge amount of respect for Darren as a person and a manager, really. He's someone that you would like, if he wasn't your manager, he'd be your mate, but he's got that where he's a winner, and he's not there to be your mate. He's not there to always put around you. He lets you know when it's not happening and when it's not working, and he's, like you say, like everyone said, he's meticulous, works extremely hard. He's a winner, and and I can see why he's had the success he's had in his career, and I'm sure he's not old in terms of managers at all. So I'm sure he's still got loads more success in him as a manager, and I'm sure probably he learned a huge amount in his first spells, especially I think was it his first job at Peterborough as manager? I think it was, wasn't it, in his first spell? So I'm sure he learned a huge amount of from them spells, and I'm sure it will get better and better. But yeah, his dealings, how he dealt with players, pulling lads in and speaking to them one-on-one, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant with me. And that was probably half. If I ever had my poorer games, you did feel like you were letting him down sometimes because of the faith that he put in me. And then when we had our successes, you really enjoyed them because you were delighted that you'd done it for him as well. He had that effect on you. So yeah, I always have a huge amount of respect for Darren, and I've got no doubt he'll carry on being a hugely successful manager. And I think he's Peterborough are very fortunate to have him as a manager.